Green Bay is a small town, only 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together: the Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast.
What is up? We are back. This is the Freezer Podcast, where we bring you a local field Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. I am Sanjay. Alongside me, like always, is Fred and Matt, and we are live in our home studios, except for this guy who's got the best backdrop in the world. This guy goes on more vacations than Antonio Brown in a single year, so like he's just living it up in Florida.
yeah, he's been all over the planet at this
Look at
point.
that palm trees with the ocean in the back. Like, dude, it's living it, bro.
Dude, it's nice.
So super jelly, but hey, glad Fred could make it here for a kind of a emergency show, I guess, because we said that we'd give you guys some free agency stuff and some draft stuff, but a lot of times, especially this year, was kind of fringe. Like maybe we just try to retain our own guys, and maybe we might get like one free agent. We didn't really know what would happen this season because we didn't know how much cap space we'd have, but we had a lot of cap space because of really big moves, and we've made some pretty monstrous signings yesterday. So we thought, let's get on. We're obviously all free and available. Let's make a big show, especially if we were to get like one or maybe two guys that was kind of noteworthy, which it was noteworthy. But we will start, fellas. We will start with some kind of somber news. We'll start with that first, and then we'll get to the good stuff, obviously. But I'm going to start with the first, like, not as big of a blow, kind of something that we thought was a real possibility, right, Matt? I think this was like kind of the thing we saw, but maybe like depending on like the medicals, maybe the guy might be able to come back, but like the number was just so astronomical that we were like, I don't know if you can like swallow a pill knowing that Rasheed Walker just balled out for basically, I don't know, 12 games. I don't know when he got the official starting job, but you know, when he took it over from Josh Nijman, I think that was kind of the writing was on the wall. But as I want to get to, David Bakhtiari cut, the long-time Packer left tackle, the blind side of Aaron Rodgers MVPs, is saying goodbye. And well, we're saying goodbye. We cut him. So post you one cut too. So save $20 million. Matt, your thoughts on the big giraffe? Gone and out of here, I guess.
You know, even though we've had probably like a year and a half run up to this, like still disappointing and saddened that it ended the way it did, because you felt like if that ACL injury never happened on New Year's Eve of 2020, you know, they may have another Lombardi. You know, certainly he's probably, you know, looking at a first ballot Hall of Fame situation. I mean, really, you know, David Bakhtiari, one of the one of the best tackles of his generation, certainly one of the best tackles to ever play for the Packers. That said, you know, I'm kind of glad this chapter is over with. It's been hanging over their heads. I know that as fans, like we all think about David Bakhtiari when he's healthy, and sometimes it's hard to, you know, reconcile the two. Well, he's, you know, when he's great, he's really great, but man, he, you know, but that's the problem is when he's great and the knee just wasn't holding up. So right. I'm sad that it ended for him, but I'm happy that the Packers are out from underneath that. It's no longer going to weigh on them, and that they got that 20 million, which clearly they're already putting to work. So I'm sure you guys will echo similar sentiments about Dave, but you know what? I'm glad I got to watch him play. One of my favorite Packers of all time. I think my lasting memory of him will be the big middle finger to the Bears fans. You know, the one game he did play last year. So right. My hat offs to David Bakhtiari, man. Cheers to you,
Fred.
Yeah, it's definitely you know, it's a weird like double-edged sword catch-22, man. Like, love the dude, love the long hair, love the beer chugging, love everything that he was kind of about for so long, right? Like, he was the epitome of what I thought Packer football, right? Like, just it felt right. And then things got weird. Like, I just felt like everything got kind of strange. he got paid. I want to say, I think since his payday, I believe he only started 25 games in 4 years. That's unacceptable. We can't, we wouldn't allow that for anybody, let alone him. But, it just felt like he had one foot out the door, and it's hard to not kind of have this like sour taste in my mouth about it. But on the same breath, like, he's also a legend, like an absolute stud of a left tackle, classic 4th round kind of guy. So I love him for that, and he'll be missed in that regard. But you also kind of babied your way into the situation, and you're gonna go to New York, and that's great, good for you. But I don't like that's the way that was the way it ended, right? Like, because it kind of makes me feel like, were you really as hurt as you put off, or was this all part of the ploy to get that exit to Aaron Rodgers? I don't know, but it feels a little shady to me.
Yeah, honestly, it was a weird kind of like last 2 years, and we can never fault a guy for his injuries and stuff, but it was just kind of a weird, like, either I know this is kind of 2 scenarios, possibly even 3 or 4, that we've seen players kind of disgruntled with the medical situations that are handled with them. We heard it with Devondre Campbell, and also a couple other players in the past too. And it's just kind of like, I don't know where he was with his knee, and like obviously if we rushed him too far, or too quickly, or if he rushed himself too quickly, I don't know. But like, it just felt like these last 2 years there was like this weird like frustration from the obviously the management side of it, and obviously I'm sure for him too, like the guy wants to play, let's just be honest. But it is sad to see him go. Obviously, I want to ask you, Fred, just because you have seen the film, you've heard the stories, and I feel like this is probably insane. And by the way, 118 people in this show tonight.
Get out of town.
Well, did stuff happen?
I don't know what's happening right now, but thank you everybody.
There's no news going on. What do you,
I don't. Everybody just wanted to see the 3 of us. We've been gone for so long. I don't know. But anyway, Fred, I want to ask you this question. Maybe this is very like, I don't know if this is like a cardinal sin to even like consider this. Because Matt said might be one of the best left tackles to ever play Green Bay. Is he the best tackle in Green Bay, given the fact that maybe your grandpa and his guys might have a question to say about it? Is he? And is he a Packer Hall of Famer? I'm not going to give him. Is he a Packer Hall of Famer too?
Absolute Packer Hall of Famer. The absolute Packer Hall of Famer. I don't know if I'm giving him the nod for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, just because I think we got to have a little bit higher standards there, right? Where we can't just start like throwing everybody in. And as great as he was, like, that is not a knock on his talent whatsoever. But Absolutely. I think we just have to set the bar higher. That being said, not the greatest left tackle of Green Bay Packer history. I'm gonna
better than Chad Clifton.
Man. I'm gonna maybe. I don't know. I'm not a true left tackle, but like Forrest Gregg as a tackle in general, pretty stellar. Hard
I'm just saying because like but, he doesn't have a ring, so like it's kind of hard to put him there.
Yeah. But guess what?
Anyway,
most of our tackles don't. So because we don't win enough rings, that's the problem. But no, here's the thing. Like, I mean, I would say this. Like, I would have no qualms putting him in probably the top 3. I'd have to probably hash it out and really look at it. But here's drafting him 4th round out of Colorado. He comes in.
I mean,
he takes a couple years off, and then he played. He was out there. Yeah, like you're talking one of the best left tackles outside of like Tyron Smith for a couple years was in that category. But like
Trent Williams, like that's.
Well, when Bakhtiari signed his deal, he was the guy, and then Trent Williams signed for.
Drop it in the chat, everybody. If you think he's top 3 or if he's top 1, I don't. If you like to make your comment, go ahead, throw it in the chat. Let us know what you guys think. Is he top 3? Fred says no. I don't even. I think he's top 3. It's hard with Clifton, and then obviously.
No, I'll say top 3, but he's definitely not the number 1. There's no way he's number 1. Like I shouldn't even say that. That's not fair. I don't know. I guess this question came out.
See, I know. It's a different age. I know. I get it. But he's in the Packer Hall of Fame, though. We can agree on that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's get to the next news, because there's actually so much news, like for a matter of 48 hours, that I'm trying to get through it all. But let's get to the other somber news, which is Aaron Jones getting cut. It was kind of a world of emotions, because we kind of started the day with Josh Jacobs getting signed, and then we're like, is this the best duo, best running back duo in the league? We're going to have like a little bit of a thunder and lightning kind of thing, get the legs rested for Aaron Jones and for Josh Jacobs, really. And I really don't know why teams don't do more of this. And I was kind of saying it in our text group. I'm like, what if we got Saquon Barkley? Like, what could you imagine if that could be like, with those two? And then obviously to get the second best running back probably in free agency, wild. So, but we'll talk about Aaron Jones though. That side of it gets cut. Whatever stories you might have heard based on the rumors and based on the agents and based on the the numbers of 50%, whatever they wanted to ask for him, there's some things that we know and there's some things that some people know. And, it's a tough business. Let's just put it this way. It sucks when you see the things that this guy does off the field for the team, in the locker room, and obviously on the field. He had a hell of the last 5 stretch of games, and the guy will probably go, and he will probably be in the Packer Hall of Fame. I would love to see it. Maybe he might not, but he was so close to getting some of those Amon Green numbers that, and I think he even surpassed Amon Green in a couple, but there is a lot that he could have done, and if he could just have stayed another year or two. But I get it. He was taking discounts for us for the last couple of years. He was done with it. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, was definitely done with it. And he can't blame a guy for wanting to get paid. I will never say that, but it just sucks that he's not going to be in green and gold. He should have been a lifer. I will say that for the rest of my time. I think I would have put him for sure. As far as running backs in, Packer history, we'll get to that one later. But your guys' thoughts, I'll throw it to Fred first. 33. The sombrero has to be put on a hook now. What do you think?
I mean, it hurts, man. There's nothing. I'm not going to act like it doesn't hurt. I mean, I actually sat next to him on an airplane a couple weeks ago.
I know. You should have said something to him.
Yeah,
bro.
I should have said. Yeah, I should have gotten in their skin. But here's the thing: like, it's a business. It's ultimately a business, and sometimes that's super hard because we become so attached to it. And I've said this for as long as I've ever been a Packer fan. If we kept the guys that we love and we want, Jordan Love would be throwing the ball to Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson. Like we would we have to continue to grow, otherwise we're dying, right? And I know Matt will probably agree with that because I know it's a big thing. But that's where I'm at. And I love him, and I'm super bummed to see him go because I think he was, for the last 5 to 6 years, the most electric player on that team. And I don't know, and I'm nervous, can Josh Jacobs do the same when it counts like Aaron Jones could? Aaron Jones could take over a game. Yeah. So we'll see. But that being said, man, it breaks my heart. It also it's even harder because he went and did what he did. And he went to the Vikings. And we know where that comes from. We've seen it a million times.
The other news is
and it just feels like
shocker.
It feels like you didn't have to do that, man. You didn't have to. That's all I want to say.
Him and Jennings, really,
absolutely.
Kind of like,
if I could see, if I had him in front of me right now, I'd just be like, why? Like, you didn't have to do it. You could have gone to Texans, Dallas, anywhere. Why?
A little salty. Matthew.
Yeah, this sucks. I honestly don't know how to feel about it. Like, I mean, one minute I'm like sad about it, the other minute I'm kind of mad about it. We were following this story before it broke. I don't want to go all Adam Schefter, but I have someone close to the situation, and we were kind of following along a bit. So once the Josh Jacobs news came out, it was lukewarm at best for us. So what kills me is that so many of these great Packer players have meant so much to the team and the organization and the town, et cetera, never got to hoist a Lombardi here. Even David Bakhtiari, right. You can lump him into that. The Packers don't make the playoffs last year if Aaron Jones doesn't do what he does down the stretch. And I just think that for them to ultimately be basically a mill or two apart in the end, I just think excuse my language, a fucking travesty. Yeah. That's what it ends up being. That's what it ends up being. That in the end, it's a couple of bucks that ends up shipping Aaron Jones off to the Vikings, and it's like, dude, come on, man. Like this is 100% a spite move. Like this wasn't about the money or the best opportunity to win a championship. No, this was I could play the Packers twice. And what else happens?
And sorry to interrupt, Matt. I was just gonna say, I'm just confused that you were willing to give Josh Jacobs this, moderately big deal, basically what Aaron Jones was probably trying to get. Why couldn't you just have adjusted the numbers of whoever you were going to bring back in, secure your bag with your guy that has done you right for the last 3-4 years, and who's done so much for this team. I thought maybe they would try to, like you said, for haggling for a few bucks, sign the guy that's been there for you. And then, yeah, sure, whatever free agent that, you could maybe get. Like, there's so many running backs, even if it wasn't Josh Jacobs, if you really wanted to bring in someone younger or someone like different, more dynamic, whatever it is, then sure, then try to do it for, one more year and see where Jones is at. And then maybe he, does a farewell trip. I don't know. But
well, and the thing is, if you pull all of the emotion out of it, like, it makes sense. Like, you
It does,
understand,
100%,
like, for an NFL team, like, and certainly the Packers are not a team interested in paying running backs that are 30 years old. Like, they just aren't. But, I think Aaron Jones is probably the one exception you probably would have made, at least I would have made, because I just think that I know that we apply this to everybody that's a parting veteran, but we all saw it, not just from people's opinions or their experiences, but we saw it on camera last year, how much he meant to the team. I mean, I always think back to that moment where he picks, Wicks's head up coming off the field,
Right.
Jaden Reed confronting him on the sideline saying, man, I play my ass off because
him and the
you.
Don Hudson
Like,
Center and getting everybody
yes.
it's just,
and I
you
just
don't
think,
find
like,
those guys.
it's not like he's not productive. It's not like he's just lost the
Right.
leg. I understand he's, a little more high mileage and he's often injured, but when he's in there and you get those 12, 13 games, he's electric. So I don't disagree. I don't agree with the move. I would have kept them around for another year and then probably moved on, but you know what? It is what it is. So
Right,
I wish
Let
him
me
the
ask you-
best, but also not because it's the Vikings.
So let me ask you this question though, because we've seen this now a couple years in a row, and we didn't know if it was true because Mrs. Rogers was chatty Cathy sometimes. But is this something? Right, we've kind of heard rumblings that maybe Gutekunst didn't reach out, didn't maybe give him the proper way exit. Right,
I know
that's
where you're
what
going
Rodgers
with this,
thought.
but it's not.
Is
show
this
friends.
It's not.
show
But is
business.
this absolutely? I agree with you. Is it a problem though? Is it something that we have to maybe consider, or is it just, bro? It's a job. It's your job. It's your
Exactly.
business.
Like, does your boss, like, if your boss saw you here for 30 years and was like, hey, you're just not cutting it right now. You're late here and there. Your production is kind of like gone down a little bit. He's
Yeah.
got to do what's best for the business, right? That's all.
Absolutely.
That's all Brian Gutekunst is. He's just the guy that has to be the bad guy. And you know what? It's
Yep.
better for him to be the bad guy than like Matt LaFleur. Like, what if Matt LaFleur was the guy that saw him every single day putting blood, sweat, and tears on that field, and he was like, yeah, I'm cutting you because I don't want you. It's easier for Brian, who doesn't see him on a daily basis, to do this. Like, that's,
Yeah.
I hate that I know the players want to feel like this is like a family. I know Rodgers, it was always about that, right? Family. It's about the guys in the locker room. They're the ones that, do this for everybody. And I get that. I totally do. But there has to be one bad guy, right? There has to be.
Yeah.
And that happens to be Brian Gutekunst, because he's looking always for the future.
I think Goody's done a wonderful job. Like, I have no complaints about what he's done. What I do have a problem with, though, is that all the rumblings about how there's no personal touch to some of these releases. And I understand, like, you're not going to do that for everybody, but to me, it's like, I think Aaron Jones is again, go back to the exception, but that's a guy that's not just a guy. Like, he just didn't pass through here. He just wasn't.
But you also had a guy that was probably going to have a statue made from him, too. And you did it to him.
Me,
I know he kind of worked himself out of it, but
he's taking
Right.
all these pay cuts and playing for under market value.
I know.
To me,
It's
the
not
minimum
easy.
you do, if you're going to let him roll, then you better be the one making the call.
Hey, look.
But the problem too, the problem is if you start with Jones or you start with Rodgers or you start with
Right.
Driver or you start with,
And you have to do it for
where
everybody.
does it stop? Where does it stop?
Exactly. You're gonna for the rest
So
of the
what are
time
we talking
until
about?
we're
A
90.
2-minute phone call? A 2-minute phone call? We get talking about they got to take out like a
Okay,
page
yeah,
in the
but
paper
now
or
you're
something.
getting
We're
somewhere
talking- it's
different. You're getting somewhere different. Yes, I agree. He should have probably called him and said, "Look, man, we love everything you've been for this organization.
Yes.
You carried the G.
That's not
You
that
did
hard.
everything. I, for one, I will be there for when you get inducted to the Packer Hall of Fame. Whatever. He could have said any of that, but whatever. What are we? We're just a bunch of Joes talking about it.
That's right.
I was just saying it in the group text. I'm glad that I can just do it on Madden and I can just hit cut
the A
and I don't
button.
have to worry about it. So,
You're
all
my
right. So let's move on. Hey, nothing but respect for 39 and 66. We are 33 and 69. Wow, I just like muffled those numbers.
Man, that was all
Math.
goes, dude. Math
We
hard.
will always love them. They will always be a place in our hearts. Keep your jerseys if you really want to. You don't have to worry about like burning them or putting a duct tape on them. You can always know that jersey will be good in that stadium. So
Yeah.
other cuts. Devontae Campbell. That was kind of early on into the early stages before free agency hit.
Yeah.
We kind of thought it, but then at the same time, we were like, well, maybe you keep him because you like want to see what the draft looks like, maybe free agency, and then kind of the summer you could maybe cut the guy, right? And then you can kind of like feel out the team. But they were like, look, we want the money. Let's just cut it. And actually, that was even a post June 1. So they're not even seeing that money. That's next year they see it. So that happens to be, a cut that I think we were kind of maybe seeing, but we didn't know if it was going to happen right away. It does happen. That obviously leaves a very big hole. Actually, maybe it's not a big hole because now that we're potentially in a more of a 4-3 scheme, maybe we see a different route with Jeff Hafley, and then maybe they get a different type of player during the draft. It's only day 2 of free agency. There's still plenty of time to get maybe one of these guys that gets in the the tier 2, tier 3 linebackers that maybe Jerome Baker's a guy that I've been mentioning a lot from Miami. His coach just got here. Forget his name now. For Jeff Hafley. So that's a possible name that we could look at. But are you guys do you think his comments from the medical thing, and then do you think that was kind of the writing on the wall for him, or do you think this was just strictly like an age and number and like just trying to cut some cash here and there?
I think he came in as a filler, right? I mean, I don't mean to take away from what he did. I thought he was fantastic. Honestly, I thought what he came in and did was very similar to like how Preston and Zadarius came in that first year and really kind of took over and did a lot of great stuff. He was an absolute tackling machine. I think a pretty good leader for the most part. But I think it was always a train stop, right? It was a one stop and be go, and that's what it was, and that's what we're seeing. And I think there's a lot more opportunity for this team to grow, and it's not really involving him. And I think that's what Gutekunst is looking at is a full picture, right? I've always said on this show that GMs aren't playing for 24, 25. GMs are looking at 27, 28 already, right? Exactly. They are so far ahead of us. They are preparing for what's in
especially money
in
wise.
the future.
Right.
Money wise, draft wise, player, everything. So I don't look at it as a big deal. I mean, I think he was a great player. I enjoyed him a lot, but are we going to falter because he's not there? No, I don't think
we're declined last year, but maybe that was due to injury. But
in injury and age, I mean, now our entire team is 24 years old, so that's really
it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it sucks because I remember doing the show with you guys and how excited we were about Devondre Campbell and how we actually had a real middle linebacker in the middle of the field for once,
and we had an all-pro linebacker.
He was an all-pro.
We could say that
it was a treat. Unfortunately, it was for 1 year. It was a 1-year treat because the other two after that, he did not perform. And I don't know how widely it was reported last year, but he got benched for McDuffie. And that's part of the reason why he tweeted that shit out during part of the season and was kind of disgruntled. He lost his job, but then McDuffie could never stay healthy. So Campbell just kept playing.
He just got inserted back in.
So this was long overdue. I mean, I'm glad they went this route. I think to Fred's point that there's room for an upgrade here, and I think they could probably. I expect them to probably sign another free agent and wait for this first tier to kind of go through, and then kind of hop on some of the bargains. And then I definitely think in the draft they'll address it because right now it's Quay Walker, McDuffie, and
Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson is now getting looked at by I think. San Francisco, I think, or something.
They gotta add some bodies there. So I don't think they're done adding free agents here. I don't think it'll be maybe some marquee name, but nonetheless, somebody will come in.
Definitely a focus, right? Now that we're switching schemes, and I think what they're trying to say is either A, they think Quay Walker is the man at the helm, or they think maybe there's someone that they can get on a cheap dollar on a 1-year deal maybe, and then they draft a rookie that they could develop. I don't know what's going to happen in this defense. We all are kind of, in the, mystery zone because we don't know what kind of players Hafley needs. And then we're kind of dissecting sort of what, we see from other schemes with other coaches that are similar to his style. So we're kind of in the dark here, but we'll see where it goes. Some in-house stuff though. Am I missing any other cuts though? No. I mean, obviously we didn't bring back people. We already kind of talked about that.
Johnny Owens going to the Bears.
Johnny Owens goes to the Bears. I think the Johnny.
Listen. I know you don't love Johnny Owens, but I loved Johnny Owens last year, and I thought he was such a stud. I thought. Here's the thing: it wasn't a top priority to bring back Jonathan Owens. I get it. But it was something that I thought we could easily knock in a 2-year, $8 million, $9 million, $10 million.
Clearly they did. They saw they're this guy's ass. So
yeah. So that was one.
Well,
Yes,
the
that was the
John
other one I
Runyon
wanted to
one's
throw out
really
there.
crazy. That 30 million, he got 10 a year. Like, boy, that's
Yeah.
just
Man.
teams that are desperate for offensive lines, right? This is exactly why this is an offensive line factory, and that we do things so much differently than like 98% of the league. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Iowa Joe. Thank you.
This is Matt's like one guy that he's always just like, what does this guy have? Does he have like
And he was
new
the first
tricks of,
re-sign,
like, Brian
too.
Gutekunst? Like, this guy's got something over the GM that this guy constantly gets capped. I hear that
Every
he's really
year-
good at special teams, I guess, but he was gone all year. So maybe this guy's
Every
not even
article,
that
the
guy
Packers
anymore.
love Tyler Davis. The Packers love Tyler. When Tyler Davis plays
I don't
tight end,
get
he's
it.
not very good.
I really don't get it.
Do we know, like, does like Mark Murphy have like a daughter the same age, or like is he
He's
like
got it.
dating a
Something's going
daughter
on
in the
there, dude.
yeah?
Hey,
Something's going on.
there might be.
Because
I don't know.
there's
This
never been a
guy's
moment
got
where
it.
any of us have. Yeah, there's never been a
You're
moment
gonna
where
cut
anyone's been
Aaron
like,
Jones, but yet here you're gonna keep Tyler Davis. You're gonna cut David Bakhtiari, but we're gonna
Yeah.
keep Tyler. Anyway, I get it.
Tyler
Whatever. He's
Davis.
probably dirt cheap. He costs like 50 cents. So,
That's true.
some of these guys are not coming back. Obviously, with the Jacobs signing, probably AJ Dillon's probably not coming back, which I'm kind of okay with. It was fun while we're at it. See you later, Mayor of Door
Savage.
County.
Actually,
Savage goes to the Jaguars. What's up? What?
Actually, I'm not
Don't
convinced.
actually.
We've seen I'm not convinced that we've seen the last of AJ Dillon.
Maybe not. Maybe he does come back for a bag of chips. I don't know.
It's
Well, it's
possible.
it's like we've said. Like, I really genuinely do believe they're going to let him test the market.
Yeah,
Or he's
they
going to
will.
be
Yeah,
really
yeah.
depressed because he's going to realize it's not that great.
He's
And I think
too
the
busy
market-
Twitch
I think-
streaming right now.
Yeah.
Well, I think we saw it with Aaron Jones, right? We all thought Aaron Jones would go out and he'd go make 15 million, which is ridiculous. But you know what I'm saying? You think
Yeah.
that anyone's going to go out and shell out a bag for a guy like AJ Dillon? Like, I just don't see it.
Nope.
Whereas he's going to get a comparable
Dallas.
offer from us.
Big Mike, where's Dallas?
Yeah, Big Mike. Oh God.
No, Matt's Big
Well,
Mike.
here's actually a legitimate. And this is off the chain from the Packers, really quick here. But
Yeah.
when it comes to Dallas, you got rid of Pollard, who I thought
Yeah.
was overrated since day one. You didn't get Jones. You didn't get Henry.
That was-
You
yeah.
didn't go
They have
after
nobody.
anyone that. I mean, it's just listen. I'm not saying that makes sense, but I cannot believe Jerry Jones.
Well, they
is
got to
sitting on his
figure out
hands
their
right
own
now
guys
and not
first. They got to
going
sign
after those guys.
E. They got to sign Dak. Like
If
they
they
got their own problems.
if they signed AJ Dillon, he would be their starter right now. That's the
100%.
state of their running back.
No, they got that new guy, that Deuce, that little guy, that little
Dude,
5'5" guy.
He's like 5'2".
Oh, yeah.
He's not starting.
Hey,
Okay,
don't make
but
fun of
he's
Muggsy
Muggsy
Bogues.
awesome.
All right,
Deuce is loose.
Deuce is loose. That's his fantasy name. If you don't know. All right, so
It is, man.
yeah, see, bag of chips. So obviously those are guys that are probably not coming back. But you're right. I shouldn't completely close the door on AJ Dillon. I just don't know if he matches the same. I thought they would probably want something more shiftier. That's why I thought the whole Jones and Jacobs thing would have been beautiful. But
Yeah.
just like Muggsy. Who's Muggsy?
Muggsy Bogues. I called
Oh,
Beast Muggsy Bogues.
okay. Hey, yeah, you got to stop dissing us short people, really.
Sorry, Short Kings.
All right. So, but doesn't mean that we didn't do our own work. So we brought back some in-home free agents. Keyshawn Nixon today, right? So that was kind of a nice thing. We also got Valentine is back today.
Yep.
Do you have his picture too? Oh, look at you.
No.
He's really on top. Oh, he
He doesn't
doesn't have
get a
a
picture.
picture. Okay. All right. Yeah, he was kind of low on the totem pole. But you're bringing guys back that, obviously.
Well, nobody
wanna-
has a picture of Valentine. I can't find one on Google, man.
Depth for Jeff Halfley. Obviously, you haven't seen us go after a corner in defense, or at least in free agency. I don't know if that doesn't mean that they're not going to go into the draft and get someone younger, because you don't really know what's going to happen with, Eric Stokes and his, return back, and if he can come back, the same player. Obviously, Ja's got his little stuff. I think we're kind of past the, is he going to go? Is he going to want to, like the weirdness of Ja is whatever, right? So you literally have one guy, and that's Carrington Valentine, that's under contract, that's like, got his head straight and he wants to be a Packer, right? So like we got one guy that's literally going to be out there. So two guys, because we know John's going to be out there. But anyway, this gives you another, guy, and then especially with Jeff Halfley being a DB's coach, maybe he can coach him up and actually like get something out of him and improve his game, elevate it, right? And then obviously Keyshawn Nixon also being a corner and a slot corner. He kind of graded out pretty well, actually, right? Like he actually, as a slot corner, which is weird because we've seen him literally throw a game like twice. Giants game we saw him throw one. I think we also lost one because of the Tampa Bay game we lost, and then I think there's two other ones that we've seen like he single-handedly potentially lost us the game. But nonetheless, the kick returner side of things, the new rules, right? We're gonna have new rules with the kick return, so potentially this could be favoring him, and he is arguably one of two of the best returners in the league, right?
Yeah, I mean, he might be the best returner. I just think he's
Based
the only
on-
guy that tries to return kicks that I see.
Yeah,
At least. Everybody else,
forever green light, except for the playoffs.
and like the 4 or 5 times it works out a year, it's totally worth it. So like, I'm happy that he's back. I like that Ballantyne's back. I do think that they'll probably be drafting DBs in the draft for sure. I still think, like I said before, they're going to sign a safety at some point. But are we talking about Jacobs yet? Are we talking about the in-house retentions?
I just want to get the in ones really quick, and then let's get the rest of the show dedicated to the new guys. Obviously,
so far all the resignings we've done so far, I'm good with.
You're on board with? All right.
Yeah, I'm good with them.
All right.
Yeah,
so
I don't have a whole lot to say on it. I mean,
I know.
I was just going to say,
Ed is like chopping the bit to show these images.
Come on, man! I pulled them off
All
somebody
right,
else's
all right.
website. No, here's the thing. I'm going to say. Let me say one thing. So I do like the Keyshawn Nixon thing. I don't mind it. I don't really see like the value behind the dollars that we were giving him. I guess I don't see the value.
It was a lot.
Getting a punt returner, right, or a kick returner, like this, just because the game has changed a little bit. That being said, I do feel like he brings an element to like the group and like the locker room, right? He's a total vibe guy. And I think that he can be something. I don't know if that counts to like give him a big contract, but I guess from normal Packer fans, I guarantee there's probably about 50 people out of the 215 that are watching right now that would probably say, why couldn't we have used that money on Aaron Jones, right? So that make sense for people that are watching.
It'll be forever.
It's a fair question.
The Kevin King thing. It's going to be
the question.
TJ Watt thing. It's going to be now the Aaron Jones thing. Why couldn't we just give the money to Aaron?
But that's the question, right? When you see Aaron Jones go for $7 million, which I know is spiteful, but you look at like these other ones and you're like, I would have rather traded Tyler Davis, Keyshawn Nixon. I mean, any one of them for him. So how does that make sense? How do we make that make sense for people that are watching right now? We're like,
Lombardi, go upstairs, ask him real quick. Go to this office when you get back from the Sunshine State. Which, by the way, your backdrop now officially is boring. Your sun has gone. Your ocean is gone. Your palm trees.
I don't have a body.
Palm trees.
Huh? I'm just a head right now floating.
I know. You're now boring. Now actually Matt and I have upgraded. In fact, I've even upgraded with my white wall behind me. So anyway.
I put this back up because I took all this down for the offseason.
Yeah, Matt kind of goes in hibernation, which is really rude because he should have foreseen us going for these two big names that we're gonna what a nice segue. Thank you, Matt. So we're gonna transition to the next biggest thing that we're here for is the biggest signings that we had. Obviously, Josh Jacobs. That is as far as like, at least we have a running back, at least that's kind of the nice thing is that, hey, we have a guy that led the league in rushing a year ago, 2 years ago, technically. And this guy is a workhorse. This guy is huge. He is also fast. He has good vision. He's never had an offensive line like this. And he still led the league in rushing 2 years ago with the Raiders offensive line. Like, it's not like, it's not the worst offensive line, but it's not anything like to write home about. So the guy's got it. Hopefully, Gutekunst can get into that factory with his scouts and get some more offensive linemen, especially some guards. But this guy could change the way this offense runs. Obviously, Aaron Jones, we saw what happened every time he touched that ball. It was a lightning in a bottle. And, when we saw A.J. Dillon have it, we were like, this is so ridiculous. Why does this guy even get touches? So hopefully, every time this guy touches the ball, it's just constant, just feed this guy like 15 to 20 carries a game. And then, Jordan Love doesn't have to feel like he has to do everything like we always used to see with Aaron Rodgers, right? So, clearly, the Packers really see the run game as their focal point, and hopefully I would think they would draft a running back in the draft this year, maybe a more speed kind of guy, like maybe like Isaac Rendo. But let's see what they do with this, though. This is going to be fun to watch, especially. I don't actually know how. Yeah, I haven't looked at his receiving numbers. How is he in the receiving game? Because
He's
is he?
It's not his forte, but he can do it. Yep.
But anyway,
I think
go ahead.
I
Yeah,
think
go ahead.
I love this. Now we've said our piece about Aaron Jones. We could take the emotion out of this
Right
whole
now
thing.
we can get excited.
I love this signing. I think it's great, and I think that obviously the Packers are banking on him returning to that 2022 form. I think the 2023 Raiders were just a shit show, and there was nobody was doing anything in that offense at any point last year. Maybe at the end, but the reason I love this is because he's a true 3-down back. I mean, and it was kind of questionable with Aaron Jones because of his durability, his size. He's not really a huge guy. He's much smaller, although I think he plays big. But Josh Jacobs can go all 3 downs. He can take 20, 25 carries a game and be a sledgehammer. And I think that's really what the Packers have always wanted. Obviously they drafted AJ Dillon to be kind of a small, not smaller, but like a reduced role version of that. And now they have that in Josh Jacobs. I know I'm contradicting myself, but maybe that's the reason why they don't bring back AJ Dillon even really cheap, because you don't really need to spell Josh Jacobs a ton. So I think what you do is you roll with Emmanuel Wilson, and then you absolutely look to draft 1 or 2 running backs in the draft and see kind of how that all shakes out. But I love Josh Jacobs for this offense. I think that's something they can rely on. They didn't downgrade from moving on from Aaron Jones. I think you could probably argue that they upgraded in some sense, at least.
Younger?
I know it's kind of a little, I think he's younger, he's heavier, he's faster. So I'm very intrigued to see how he fits in here. And I know Green Bay was sniffing around Jonathan Taylor last year. So clearly they've been thinking about adding a veteran running back for some time. And that they wouldn't make this type of signing if they didn't have big plans for him. So I think he's going to be a huge part of this offense.
You guys watched that, I think it was Thanksgiving, whatever that Chiefs Raiders game was, where he single-handedly took over that game because they had no quarterback. Could be our future with a guy that can play quarterback. But go ahead, Fred.
So first and foremost, I got to say, me and you and Matt have sat on this podcast for we're going on 5 years now. And we've done a free agency show and we've been like, we did nothing. Again, this is bullshit.
You just complain the whole time.
Sometimes we don't even have a show.
This is the first
we didn't even do a show last year.
We don't even do a show. I actually am on vacation and I'm doing a show because we've actually done something for once.
Yeah, he planned a vacation and
yep.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, holy shit, we actually went out and did some big
on day one,
right? So if anyone wants to complain about it, shut up, because we've all begged for this moment for like 20 years. That being said, I will go into what I think Josh Jones is all about, or Josh Jacobs. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked.
Josh Jones, we don't want that guy again.
Yeah, Josh Jones was the shit. No, but anyway, so here's the deal. He's younger, which is always going to be my first look, right? The age gap is so much better. He's got a ton of tread left on the tires. Coming off of a last year, which was a bum year, but on a crappy offensive line. The year before that, leads the league in rushing. Those are huge things. Gutekunst loves that second contract availability. The third thing would be the reliability a little bit, right? Like we always talk about Jones, right? We go through that whole first half, 3/4 of the season. We're like, why are we not giving him touches? Is he too small? Is he too skinny? Why does he get hurt whenever he makes a big play? And this isn't a knock on him because I love him. But I feel like with Josh Jacobs, you're getting kind of a little bit of that classic back, right? You're getting the guy that's built, can take hits, can be a 3-down back, like you said, Matt. And I think that is something that we've not always had with Aaron Jones. And I think Aaron Jones is electric, but he's never been like your classic 3-down back, which is why we've had to have a guy like AJ Dillon to kind of counteract that.
Yeah.
So Jamal Williams as well. So I think that this gives us the opportunity to kind of be like, okay, we can put our focus on this one back and then look at the rest of the offense, which the rest of the offense, let's just take a second here with Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs, those 2 tight ends and that receiving core, which there are going to be some regressions there. But my, that is a hell of an offense. And we don't have to enter the season thinking to ourselves, well, I hope they get Aaron Jones a couple more touches this year because, like we get done with every game. And it's like Aaron Jones had 9 touches.
LaFleur's so happy right now. He won't have to have that question anymore.
When we're like begging for Aaron Jones, we see him gone for like half a quarter or whatever it is. And we're like, oh,
for sure.
What are you doing?
So I think I think there's something there. We've always wondered why. We've always wondered, like, does the coaching staff not like him? I don't think that's the case. Is it injury prone? Probably. We've always wondered, why does he not play an entire game? With Josh Jacobs, we don't have to worry about that. And that to me is like the number one factor. And the fact that he's just an absolute beast. Like he's a tough, hard-nosed runner who can pick up those blocks, catch the ball out of the backfield, and I think it fits the system. I still would like to see us kind of go after somebody that can get moved out into the slot and kind of create some mismatches.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not the case anymore because we have those two tight
Jalen
ends
Reed.
and then this bevy of receivers that I think are very unique. So I actually, for the first time, feel like this one back is enough. I don't really think we need to worry necessarily. Now, that being said, I do think you go after a back in that third, fourth, fifth round and grab some
Yeah.
kid with some fresh legs and let him run. I mean, I love Braylon Allen, but that's because I'm a homer and I'm going to admit it. I don't care. I mean, I think adding him to be kind of your big bruiser type back behind Josh Jacobs would be cool, but I don't know if that's necessary. I think what we would be needing to look for is a little bit more of that, shifty, speedy type back
Yeah.
like Aaron Jones was. Now, you're not going to get Aaron Jones 2.0, but I think there's still options out there and the league is different. But I mean, Josh Jacobs, like, if I would have told you 2 years ago that the Packers were going to pick up Josh Jacobs, we'd all be flipping out right
He's
now.
a former
Okay.
first rounder.
The fact that there's no reason at all that we should even question or feel concerned or nervous or anything about this pickup because it was the right pickup. We got a younger, stronger, faster back that can take over and lead us for the next 4 years with Jordan Love, as opposed to Aaron Jones, which is going to be a yearly contract situation.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think this is definitely something that we can look forward to seeing, especially like as I feel like Matt LaFleur is just scratching the first surface with his playbook too. Like he's seen now that Jordan Love can basically handle most of everything. I still think he's got some of those issues. Obviously, we saw at that last play, against the 49ers, throwing those dumb passes. He still has a lot of things to learn, too. He's just a first-year starter, but he has shown you that capability that you could open up the playbook a little bit with him and then know that you could also just kind of sit back on your, heels and also just rely on a heavy dose of running, right? And then if you can shore up that offensive line, get yourself a consistent right guard and hopefully a consistent center, I think this line is, it's the sky's the ceiling, right? Like I think we could definitely see Josh Jacobs potentially be a running champ again. Honestly, like with this kind of offense, it's just it really gels really well, and I think he would really fit this offense. So hopefully, when training camp comes, we're going to see I don't know, is he number 8 or is he going to be like? Because that's your boy over there. That's his quarterback, your backup. That's his number, so I don't know what number he's going to be.
I don't know.
So,
they haven't said yet.
So anyway, we'll see what
You
happens.
know what? I would love for him. I would love for him to take 22 because that's my number, and I have not ever had a 22 for the Packers. That's been a machine, and I would love to see that.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just my personal thing. But you know what? Here's another thing, man. Josh Jacobs, like he just brings such a different vibe to the team too, right? And I think the idea that Gutekunst is bringing in here is like this youthful, energetic, and then I'll also touch on this with the next guy, leadership, right? Captain on the team. He's a leader. He's not that guy, right? Like I had this weird feeling about him. I said it to Ethan the other day. I was like, I don't know, but he had that kind of that period where he's kind of holding out, and I feel like when guys hold out, I get rubbed a little weird about it. That being said, dude's a captain, and I think that's the one thing that we're kind of missing. And I think Gutekunst wanted to get rid of the age and then kind of rebuild this. And it's a rebuild, is in quotations there. This team with a lot of youth, but talent and some leadership. And the fact that our average age of our offense, I think, is like 24 and a half years old or something weird like that. But that's important. And I think that there's this opportunity for this team to grow, and we don't really have to worry about, bull crap from, veteran guys like we've had to worry about in the last couple of years with Bakhtiari and Rodgers and a few other people.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key point that you're saying that is like, yes, we didn't technically rebuild. It was more of just hitting on 2 draft classes really well the last 2 years that gave Brian Gutekunst this chance to really like say, look, we got a youth movement now, and like let's see how these guys can do. And then now that he's kind of like basically swept the rug of anything Ted Thompson minus Kenny Clark, it is now this young team, like you're saying, Fred, and that they can like all learn together. They have a couple key guys that are veterans too, right? You got a Kenny Clark, you got a Preston Smith. Now you have a Josh Jacobs who's been in the league for a little bit, and then you have these guys that can actually bring you some sort of like, maturity to it too, right? It's not can't always just be fun and games because now the team, the league now knows what you are, right? Like now there's some blueprint on you guys, right? It's not this young team that doesn't know anything, right? They do know something now. So hopefully they all get mature together and they all can kind of vibe together too.
The other thing that's really interesting about the situation is it's kind of a 1-year deal, right? I know it's labeled as a 4-year, like $40-some million deal, but
it's
realistically,
really
it's a 12.5 signing bonus with a 1.2, I think, or something or it's like under $2 million.
The cap hits like $6 million next year if we were to cut him.
Yeah, it's under nothing. So but the thing is it's the 1 year, 12.5 signing bonus, like a $2 million base pay, and then the next 3 years on it are basically options. So for us, not for him, for us.
Exactly, because now it's just like to see how you do kind of thing, right?
It's a glorified prove it deal, but we have him locked up. So if he does go out and ball out and rushes for 2,000 yards, we still technically have him under contract, which then we could either trade for assets, do all that kind of craziness, and we're not going to be locked in. So that's actually a tip of the hat to Gutekunst on that move.
I was just going to say exactly that, because now it's not every offseason. Oh, well, the running back's got a $19 million cap hit. How are we going to get out from underneath? Now it's just, hey, give him a shitload of money up front. And then the next 3 years after that, if you think it's worth it, you got him here
we'll
for
keep giving it to you.
Cheap.
We'll shower you with money.
Yeah. And the cap's going to go up more. We're expected to have a massive amount of money next year. I mean, this team is in the middle of a window, not in the middle, but it's beginning right now. And I hope the rest of the roster sees with the signing of Josh Jacobs, with the signing of Xavier McKinney, those are two big money additions, investments into the team. That's something that sends ripples through the entire organization, where you're thinking, damn, okay, we're onto something here, and we got some guys.
As we transition to Xavier, but that's a really huge point you brought up there, Matt, is that can the team see what we're trying to do here? And I'm not trying to tell people to take pay cuts. I'm not trying to say that. But if I'm Jordan Love and I know that I'm about to get paid, pretty handsomely, are you going to take a little less? Because you just saw Patrick Mahomes just opened up 20-some million. He just manufactured, the way that players can get endorsements now and, other kind of deals, later on, or even just on the side of the NFL. Maybe you start seeing guys that are going to do what Mahomes is doing and taking a little bit less so that you can share the wealth, because they know they're going to get paid. They're going to get in the 200s, right? He knows he's going to get that bank. But, does he feed the rest, right? And I think, especially knowing that you got your tight end soon and your receivers in the next 3 years that are going to probably blow up because you're going to ball out, that money's got to get spread around a little bit. I guarantee we're not going to be able to sign all of them, obviously, but this is exactly why Brian is the bad guy, right? He's thinking of the future. That's why he's drafting some of these guys. I guarantee we probably still draft a receiver this year, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we drafted a running back. Maybe they even dabble at a tight end too. They're going to be doing that every year. It's always you're trying to figure out what your depth is. You have to prepare. You never know who's going to go down with an injury.
You have to be. Well, and the injury is number one, but number two, I mean, realistically, let's pretend that this all works the way we want it to, right? And Jordan Love becomes MVP. Our receivers, we have 3,000-yard receivers. It's the greatest team ever.
Yeah.
How are we going to pay for that?
Look at the 49ers. Look at the 49ers. That's exactly the example.
So it will be interesting. I am very interested. I know we're not going to have time probably to touch on this, but I am interested to see what we end up doing with Jordan Love's contract. And does it actually warrant the money that people are talking about? We're not going to talk about it tonight, but let's talk about it on a different episode, because realistically,
we will.
I mean, listen, I thought he had a great ascension at the end, but it wasn't a full season. It wasn't worth Patrick Mahomes' money or Aaron Rodgers.
That last throw definitely didn't work.
Yeah,
I know, exactly. And that's the beauty of it, right? That they're not in any rush. Yes, do they kind of have to know that they have to do something, but they also don't have to, because it's look, you're still under contract and you're still proving yourself. We've seen a lot of great, but we want to see probably a little bit more before we just throw the entire checkbook at you. So let's move on to the other big one. Throw it up, Fred. This might be my favorite signing of them, of the both of them, just because this one was completely out of left field. Not that we weren't going to go after a safety, but going after the best one, the youngest one, and also, might I add, as Fred also mentioned, a captain. Xavier
Yeah.
McKinney, from formerly as you can see from the Giants, 24-year-old, gets the bank, but well deserving. And this guy,
Yeah.
especially with Jeff Halfley's, is he a post corner or a post safety? We'll have to find out in training camp and preseason. But this is a chess piece that completely helps you in the draft because now you don't have to feel like you have to get something. And then this also solidifies the back end of a room that felt like we gave up a lot of plays in a position that we thought wasn't possibly as important based on okay, if you have really good corners, maybe you don't need as great of safeties. But in this defense, the safeties have a lot of work. And does he have? Was that?
No, I was just gonna say I think it's flipped, man. I think that the McKinney
right.
signing is gonna make Jair and all those corners
They're
exactly
exactly right because now they have that over the top help, right? They know they're going to have that guy that can survey the field. Now, obviously, we still have an open position, as someone had mentioned before. We did not cut Jonathan Owens; he was just on a 1-year deal, so we just didn't bring him back. But now that he isn't back, you literally have Anthony Johnson Jr. on your roster and Xavier McKinney. So definitely, they might still even go after another safety in free agency, but we probably will see something in the draft as well. But Matt, Xavier McKinney, number 29. It's gonna be weird if he takes that number because I'm still upset about that Rasul Douglas trade. Even though yes, we got an extra 3rd-round pick, but we'll see what number he takes. We don't know either of these guys what they're taking. But your thoughts on Mr. McKinney?
I love it, man. This was huge because there was a massive hole, and I know that the safety position's kind of been downtrodden a little bit in terms of how people view their importance in the scheme, but for this defense, I think to change and to move forward, they needed to inject some type of life into it. And I think one, you obviously get rid of Barry, you bring in Jeff Halfley to run the defense, but two, go ahead and get him something to play with. And that's going to be Xavier McKinney, who I think is going to be your do everything safety, post safety, whatever you need to do, he can kind of do it. And the Packers were messing around. That was their guy. I think the second he got cut, they focused on bringing him in. And the best part about it to me is his age. He's not some jag like last year. They brought in a bunch of $1 million, $2 million a year guys and just said, "Go for it."
He ain't no jag.
This is
a Ferrari.
Yeah, this is a long-term solution to a position that's needed an upgrade for a couple of years. So I'm really excited for Xavier McKinney to be a Packer, and I think kind of like the linebacker position, they're probably still going to look at maybe adding one more guy. The amount of people that were released or not retained at that position significant. So I could see him bringing in some 3rd-tier free agent to play next to him and probably still adding a draft pick. But this is a big signing for Green Bay. And again, it keeps that defense young. It keeps them juiced up. And I think it's for Jeff Halfley. And what a great way to come to your new team. And they gave you a big present like that. So I hope he can do wonders with him. I expect him to, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But big, huge move for Green Bay.
You think Jeff Halfley's just like this in his chair?
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then come April 26th, he's probably going to be even more because I'm sure we're going to feed that defense as well. But go ahead.
Yeah. You have arguably the best safety in the league and arguably one of the best corners in the league. And then you have an offensive or defensive line, I think that really showed out last year and I think is only going to get better. What I did want to touch on, because you guys basically hit everything that I would say. I mean, I think that the move was I'm dumbfounded, basically, right? I know that everyone was like, "Oh, the Packers are targeting me," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure they are." I called them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I saw the email like, when Howie Roseman was like all about it. And I'm like,
and I was like, "We're done.
We're screwed."
Right.
The second I saw the Eagles into it, I was like, "We're screwed. We have no shot." So the fact that we were able to pull it off, again, tip my hat to Goody on this one. This dude probably deserves a statue more than anyone, but right next the pickup is fantastic. Right next to Aaron Rodgers. Hugging Aaron Rodgers would be hilarious.
Okay.
We entered the off season with a couple glaring needs, right? And we thought about the draft and how are we going to address these glaring needs in the draft because we don't go after free agents. Well, we just went after 2 massive free agents who hit really big holes that are going to be in this team. And then it still allows us to go after these draft picks, which we've been very good. Goody's been great with draft picks. And it becomes luxury picks again, right? We're not looking at it like, oh my gosh, who are we going to put in this position? Now it's like we can almost put someone young next to McKinney and not have to fret about it because he's such a solid captain, leader, guy who's been in the league long enough. It's not a big deal. But anyway, I won't go too far into it because I know you guys just talked about it. But I will say this, and I've just kind of keeping an eye on it here and there. Gone are the days, my boys, of when Teddy Thompson would draft, your Northern Dakota, Northern Iowa, you know, Santa Barbara College State University of Agriculture. Now we got guys on our defense from Georgia,
You're right.
Alabama.
actual
Big game schools.
SEC boys, right? We're getting guys that play fucking football. Like, this is a big deal. Like, if you want to draft offensive linemen from Northern Iowa, by all means, go for it. But when you're talking about my
Yeah, get
safeties
those
and
strong
my
boys.
receivers and my running backs, give
Yeah,
me
pay
fucking
the big
SEC
schools.
dudes so that I know
Right.
we can ball out.
I 100%
So
agree.
that's it.
And
I
it-
just,
Yeah.
you can see the differences in types of players that they're bringing in. I think they've kind of, I mean, obviously they're obviously going based on what the talent is, right? I don't think the helmet really truly matters, but I do think the competition does. Like what they're playing and what they're seeing.
absolutely.
I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball, knowing that these guys are in the trenches against the best helps, right? They've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
it. They've been in national championships. They've been in the big SEC, tournaments, like understanding that they're going to like fight against the best, right? So, and Big Ten, right? So I think that definitely plays a big factor. And I do think,
Mean Dean's
know-
available.
what?
I just think, I mean, when you look at our secondary, right? We've got a guy from Kentucky who played SEC receivers his entire career. We've got a safety from Alabama, 2 corners from Georgia. I mean, that's legit, man. Like
Yeah.
I feel comfortable knowing that we've got peer athletes back there and that they can be coached with a good coach like Halfley, and that's exciting to me. Like,
And
shout
Halfley's
out.
a secondary guy.
Shout out to maybe Kay Adams, man. I think she like I don't know what happened, and I mean obviously Derek Ansley being the guy that recruited him, being his coach in Alabama, obviously helped a big time. Knowing that he had someone familiar in our system, but
Well-
maybe you have to give a little shout out to Kay Adams on that on her
And
show.
he better feel special because rare is the day that the Packers ante up to sign anybody because they were in
I
competition
know,
with
man.
a few
Well,
teams
okay,
and
we
they
can't
outbid
say they
everybody
don't
else.
sign anybody. We remember when Gutekunst first came in and he got like 4 dudes. Remember, like he got Billy Turner,
He does.
got
He
the
does.
Smiths, and he got Amos, and we were like all out of our seats that we went and got 4 guys when we had not seen that, like you said, in 20 some years. But it
But
seemed like. Go ahead.
Well, most of the time they check in on a guy, Xavier
Well,
McKinney.
right,
Go,
but
what's
then-
that? You want 68 million? No, we can do 40.
Well, here's the thing, though, and this goes right back to the Jordan Love thing. Is like, you saw where Brian Gutekunst's hands were basically tied because you're putting it all towards one guy in, Aaron Rodgers, and then 2 guys because you then paid Bakhtiari before he got hurt, and then it's like, well, screw it, we're completely cap hell. We got all these vets, which, and again, when you're going for a run, stretch run, and you're trying to win a Super Bowl, sometimes you're just like, all right, all in, baby, let's just throw it all out there. We won't worry about anything. We got the team that we can get. We were so close. We got to NFC Championship games. It just didn't pan out, right? So I do think there is an element of it that Brian's now that he has a open checkbook, I guess, and going into next year too, especially with this cap going up, you can see what it can do for the team and how you can build around a roster, especially knowing that you've got so many. And again, this all reverts back to hitting on your draft classes. Having 2 years in a row now where you've had more than half your class pan out and be starters is exactly what makes you a successful GM in this league. So
real quick, because I know we only got a couple of minutes left. We can go a little bit over because apparently there's 250 people that are enjoying watching us right now, which is bonkers.
just absolutely.
But here's something I want to just throw out there, and I'll let you guys kind of jump on it too. And I've got some I think I got some images to back it up. But so we always focus on the Packers, right? As we should. That's our team. But I like to keep an eye on the NFC North, right? I think that's fair. We got to look at what other teams are doing and how they're doing it. Is there anyone in the NFC North that you felt had a solid first day of free agency? I mean, there's a lot of guys that left, a lot of guys that came in. I mean, the Detroit, Minnesota getting rid of Kirk Cousins, Aaron Jones. I mean, you've got was it Chicago right here, right? DeAndre Swift, Jalen Johnson getting re-signed, Kevin Byard coming in, Jonathan Owens, Gerald Everett. I mean, that's pretty solid. You look at Minnesota with Darnold, Jones, Grenard, Ginkle, Cashman, and then Lions with Glasgow, Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, things like that. Is there any one of those that you feel like, dang, they had themselves a day or not?
Well, I don't think any of them had like big signings like we did. I think it was a lot of like maintenance signings. I liked that Carlton Davis trade for the the Lions. I think he played some pivotal roles for the Buccaneers over the years in some of their big runs. So I like that move because they've had some questions at
They got him for
cornerback.
cheap, man.
And they got him for cheap too. You know, I think the Bears were a little bit head scratching some of those guys. I feel like they've had like 50 tight ends on the roster at this point. And then the DeAndre Swift, it's like, okay,
That was a
I
lot for
mean,
DeAndre Swift.
yeah. So I don't know, to answer Fred your question. I don't
I
think
kind of
any
like
of
the
their
Vikings,
well, the
honestly.
Vikings was
They've
very
got
like
some good
interesting.
defensive guys, honestly.
Yeah,
The
the
guy
Van
Andrew Van
Ginkel
Ginkel,
Yeah.
Greenyard was pretty good pickup. And obviously you take
I-
our boy, like that sucks.
I just think the
Blake
Vikings, I don't
Cashman's
know,
really good too.
they're in a weird spot. Like they're in limbo right
They're in a
now.
rebuild because they've had so many of these old expiring contracts. They still have, the Wiley vet in, Harrison Smith, but like they
Yeah.
just lost Daniil Hunter,
Hunter.
and they lost Eric Kendricks and then the other guy, Jordan Hicks.
I don't know how controversial this is, but I think they should trade Justin Jefferson and get a pile of picks and
Oh,
hit the
don't.
reset button. That's what I think. You got
unless they
Jordan
traded
Addison,
it
you got
us,
guys.
unless they trade.
No, I'll trade with the AFC, please.
Well, that is. I mean, yeah. This North, the NFC North is going to be competing. I even think, as much as we like to, the Dragons, right, and then the Bears are that dumb dragon. I think they're going to figure it out at some point, and it seems like they're trending in a more common sense direction. They'll have to figure out this quarterback situation, right? They're going to have to probably draft, Caleb Williams, and then I don't know what they're going to do with, Justin Fields. But no matter what, it's the NFL.
Did he get a
They're all
first
trying to
rounder for
compete.
him?
Definitely not.
So stupid.
And the Lions, obviously, they're, the darling of the division right now because they got a banner. So we'll see, what happens,
Literally.
come. That's the thing. All this looks good on paper, right? And then we got to see what it looks like. Even with Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, it doesn't matter. Until we actually see the pads come on and see how these, how they're schemed up. And then, you don't know what. I mean, that was a really big year Xavier McKinney had. He literally got paid for this year. The guy was kind of just soft and quiet and didn't really do a lot in his first 3 years. And then he just, and even last year, he kind of came on late in the year. It was the second half of the season, he kind of blew up. So it's the jury's still out on these guys. And then, the jury's still out on the Green Bay Packers. Was it an amazing year to see this kind of shocking, we thought we're rebuilding, but we're not. And then, and it ended up being a very, did we overperform kind of thing? Maybe. I think maybe this is the window that you were talking about. Maybe this is the opening of a brand new Super Bowl window.
Yeah, I think there's an essence too, and I've said this to Ethan a bunch of times. When it comes to free agents and then rookies, right? These free agents have to move to a new town. They've got family. They've got to find a house. They've got to get used to the new facilities. They've got to understand the coaching standards. There's so much outside kind of noise and inside noise that they kind of have to get used to, right? These guys are absolute habitual people, and when things aren't kind of what they've been normal, or they just go to the facility, they talk to the same guy, they get through the same, now this is all different, right? That takes a little bit of time for them to get to this comfort level that they can start then just focusing solely on what they're doing on the field. And it's not to say that they're not professionals and they can't figure this out. They're not children, I get it, but there is some sort of an element that they're trying to find a house, making sure their mom, their wife, their kids are all taken care of and in school. And they're trying to figure out some of those things. So it just kind of lingers in the back of their brain. That being said, I honestly don't think when it comes to position wise, I mean, running back is kind of a plug and play, right? There's not a whole lot that necessarily goes on. I know the floor system's a little bit different, but I feel like that's a little bit more simpler. McKinney's got a big plate to fill. There's a lot going on there and a new defensive scheme, but they all are learning that new defensive scheme. So they kind of learn it in unison, which I think will be interesting. And I think they have a couple guys there that can kind of step up and be a leader, including McKinney.
And like I said, this might not be over, right? They might get another safety. There's still Jordan Fuller. There's still Quandre Diggs. There's still Isaiah Simmons. There's still Camden Curl, right? There's a lot of guys still available and they didn't go in the first window, right? And first couple of days. So you never know, if the longer these guys wait, the maybe the more scratchy they get. That oh man, we should just take maybe a 1-year deal, whatever it is, and then that plays into Brian Gutekunst's budget, and then boom, now you're looking at 2 starting safeties that are premier kind of guys.
Every day that goes by, man, they go down. That price tag goes down a little bit.
Exactly. Wow, thank you guys so much. We got to get out of here. We're a little over our time, but 250 people just came on to the Freezer podcast. This is our
Appreciate
Hell
y'all.
yeah.
largest number that we have ever seen on the show. So clearly there's, when there's not much going on.
Thanks,
and,
Gudikins.
yeah, thank
Thanks,
Brian Goodkin
Goody,
for
for
anything.
getting us
Well,
the
thank
numbers.
you for giving us our numbers. But actually, I hope you guys are here for the three of us because honestly, we are a
Yeah.
unit together, and I think we like to try to bring you guys as much Packer stuff as we can in a different light, right? Just kind of three guys at a bar kind of thing. So we appreciate it. We always will appreciate everybody that comes out on a Tuesday night. And maybe we'll see more if we go kind of ham in the next week or so. Maybe we will. We told you we would do like a draft thing for you guys because we will always kind of do a draft thing, especially definitely after the draft. Maybe we might do a little pre-draft thing based on our schedules. We'll see. But again, this was kind of an emergency show, so this is kind of our time that we take off a little bit. But stay tuned. Be around Twitter. Be around Facebook. You see our handles here for our Twitter handles. You can definitely hit us up on there. Again, thank you so much. On behalf of That's Fred, that's Matt, I'm Sanjay, and like always,
Go Pack, go, baby.
Pack, go.
go!